This podcast may contain views and opinions which are those of the hosts and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any local agency, organization, union, employee, or company, including the podcast.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Off the Clock Shop Talk. Back in the studio, as you can see. We went a little mobile for one of the guests last week. I hope you guys enjoyed that show with Carla Schumann. More guests to come. That's kind of, what we've been aiming for all this time, to get some guests on. I will say thank you for tuning in every week. Thank you for the likes, subscribe, shares. If you're not, that's what we're looking for. Some likes, subscriptions, and share. That's
Please
like
share.
the number one thing.
Yeah.
Available on YouTube and Spotify. Also,
we don't have it on Steam yet. And Podbean, I think we're still on Podbean.
okay, Podbean. But Spotify and YouTube, those are the big ones. Check us out. I know a lot of people were requesting Spotify drivers and whatnot, so they don't have to keep their phone open unless you have YouTube Red or whatever.
Yeah.
But that being said, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll start the show off like we normally do with the cheers. We are off the clock. Obviously not operating in our normal capacity. All right. So that being said, we have a guest this week. Kind of excited about this one. Without further ado, let's introduce Josh Gale.
Yeah, I'm Josh Gale.
What's up, dude?
30-year UPSer.
All right.
Your Teamster.
All right. So let's get into it a little bit. Where did you start? When did you become a Teamster? What year? What did you start doing? What company? All that good stuff.
I started in 1993 at UPS in Anaheim, California. I was 20 years old, and I've been there ever since. I drive feeder now. I've gone pretty much every job that UPS has to offer.
How long did you do part-time?
I was part-time for 6 years.
Preload or
I was
Twilight?
a Twilight guy, but I have preloaded.
What were you doing in Twilight? Metro? What were you
I
doing?
did Metro. I did primary unload. I did the load wall. I did the air building. I did e-rigs. I did sort aisle. I did
it
car
all.
shifting. I did small sort. And I mule shifted for about 2.5 years.
That was kind of like me.
Yeah, you ran through the whole building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knew Josh, especially when you're an e-rig driver. I was an e-rig driver for like 2 of my 10 years part-time. And, you're driving all over the building. Everyone kind of gets to know you,
Yeah.
especially the guys at the end of the pin, right?
Yeah.
So, but everybody gets to know you. That's kind of cool. So you're part-time there, 6 years. Were you a steward in part-time or?
No, I actually, the job I had is pulling e-rigs for the next air department. I was stationed in front of the building, which put me right by the gas pumps. And I got to spend a lot of time with Dennis Watson, who's one of the biggest mentor. Him and Art Barnhart were both stewards for the part-time. They were full-time car washers.
Big Art?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, but Dennis was, I believe he went on to work as a business agent and then actually ran a local somewhere in the state. Oh, yeah.
I don't. The name doesn't.
He looked like
sound
a
familiar.
biker. He was a biker.
Oh yeah.
Denise Churchill, I think, is married to him now.
No, I don't know.
No
But
idea.
either way, he was probably my biggest mentor at this company, probably to the date now. Like I never met anyone who carried himself more confidently and more knowledgeably, and kind of gave me the direction. I'm a bit of an aggressive person, so
Yeah. No.
so it was
Really?
more made to suit for me, and that was where I won my first national grievance with Dennis Watson.
Nice.
Because I've won 2. And I don't know if there's anyone in Anaheim that have won 2, more than 2 at least.
No, that's saying something.
That's big.
Yeah, so it was with him. I learned how to kind of do the research on things, and it's when the sorters and pickoffs got the extra $1.
Yeah, the skilled positions.
Yeah, that was my grievance. So I kind of learned the ins and outs of being a good steward as opposed to being a steward by name only, and a real active and member-driven agenda, like really wanting the members to be properly represented.
Put the members first.
Yes, that's one way to put it. Yes, and I really appreciated that, and we became friends, and honestly, it was probably the most enlightened I had become. I used to come in to work sick. I had when I was part time, I had I had 2 children at the time I stopped being a part-timer and became a full-timer. And it was more about my wife and my kids, and I couldn't miss a day of work, and I couldn't take less than the amount of hours I was getting.
Yeah.
And I used to come in, and I used to do everything that I was I couldn't use a sick day. They wouldn't. I'd call in, they'd tell me, no, you can't take sick days. And I didn't know any better.
You know what's funny is, and this is kind of a tangent, right? But I used to, I'd done both shifts. I did, as a part-timer, I did preload and I did twilight for a couple years. You know, preload, everyone comes in like grungy, you know, I mean, it's 2 a.m. at the time. We're all freaking tired. And I when I switched shifts, I came in and people would come in like they just got out of, I mean, not the club, but they were, you know, they were just dressed. People were more dressed and more, it was weird. And I was still with like my tattered sweatshirt and my, you know, my shorts. I'm like, well, I came from preload. I don't know. You guys are wearing a button-up shirt, unloading trailers. I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing.
Just came right back from the club.
So back up a little bit. So you come in, you have this mentor. Is that what got like lit the spark for you? Is that what got you involved? Was it him, or was it a certain incident that really sparked your, you know, your awaken into the union?
Like Savas, I grew up maybe not in the best neighborhood, you know, from Santa Ana. And
where'd you grow up? Real quick.
I was in New Hope in 17th Street.
Okay.
So a little bit rough, and kind of you can either be a victim.
I was right down the street from you, believe it or not.
You can either be the victim or you could be someone who stands up for yourself. And I was pretty fortunate to I've always had a big backbone, so I don't like having to kowtow to people, especially if they're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm okay if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then I'll do it. You know, I'll do it the right way.
Own up to it.
Yeah, he was. So you were just raised in that atmosphere where it was like, protect yourself, don't let nobody run you over,
because they will.
And we've talked about it in the past.
Yeah,
I mean, it's it really does form and shape you. You know, as a young adolescent or a young child, you kind of grow up in those, you know, crazy situations at times, and it gives you, and I don't know if it's just that, but it gives you a real, like, a common sense, you know, some things that some people are lacking. We've talked about in the past, like where someone can be book smart and not really have that common sense factor. Yeah. You know what I mean? So so you grew up there, and when
I was in high school, when I started high school, my parents moved me to like a rich neighborhood. I had a friend stabbed to death, and they wanted me out of that neighborhood pretty quickly. So my mom, my adopted father, they moved me to Yorba Linda, which is a bit of a culture shock, you know.
That I gotta chime in a little bit. That's funny because, so my biological parents were never married. My mom never married.
Same with me.
My biological father. So I split time, right? So I grew up on 4th and Rate in Santa Ana.
Oh, that's where my grandmother's house
is. And then, you know, I grew up for a long time in Placentia, in La Jolla. But then, you know, my adopted, well, not my adopted, but I guess they did actually end up adopting me. But my stepfather and my mom, they ended up buying a house in Placentia right off Kramer and Yorba Linda. So I kind of grew up, it's weird because I kind of grew up in the same juxtaposed neighborhoods, you know?
Yeah, you guys are both assholes too. So.
Cheers to being an asshole.
Right? Yeah. Been called worse.
So you move out, you're in Yorba Linda.
Yeah, and I didn't know anyone, so I'd always kind of stayed out of the gangs and the trouble and stuff because of athletics, and I was, you know, always I was playing football and basketball and baseball, and so I ended up playing sports in high school, and went to Esperanza High School, which was at the time pretty much the best high school in sports there.
It was big at the time, for sure.
It was the matter day of its time, kind of, for public schools.
And how did you find out about UPS? I'm kind of backing up even a little bit further.
Well, that all ties in, actually. I was a collegiate wrestler, and I was an All-American, and I'd done real well in high school. And so I only got this job at UPS until I didn't get my scholarship squared away at Cal State Fullerton.
It's funny how that works out, right?
There was some lawsuit, and they lost their funding for the year, and I lost my scholarship, and I had kind of blown off the other ones I had been offered. Sure. And I remember telling people the first few months, I'm like, I won't be here for long. I'll be gone in this, whatever month it was. I'll be transferring. And I'd already done everything I needed to do. And then I got a call, said that's the second. I had lost a scholarship in high school to Title IX. And then I had lost that scholarship. And I had some opportunities other places, but I had met my wife and
life changes.
Yeah.
Well, that and in wrestling, it's really physically difficult, hard on your body, and I had a lot of injuries, and I had done real well, and I was real happy with what I'd done. So it was easy to walk away when you win your last match and you did all the things you wanted to do, kind of thing. So it wasn't something I was going to try to pursue more than what was easy at that point. Now I look back, and I probably wish I would have maybe tried something else, but it's really not the end of the world. My life's pretty good in the long run. So I was only going to be here just until Cal State Fullerton started up. And
we've talked about it in the past. I have always called UPS the black hole. I mean, I did the same thing as far as, starting college, started to play football, do all that stuff, and I did really well in high school football. And, I started, and then I met my current wife, and we had, my oldest son who's 19 now. And stuff just changes. Yeah. It's like your priorities change, and stuff just changes around you. And UPS was kind of just there, right? And I was like, well, I at the time, I think
Stable.
I started when I was 18. I was still in high school when I started. Had my first son right before I turned 20, like a month before I turned 20. So at that point, it was like, I'm here.
Yeah, no, it's similar in that, when I started, minimum wage was $4.25 an hour, and I was making $8.50 an hour to start. Wow. And that sounds unique now, but that'd be like making $28 an hour now.
Well, what's crazy about that, and is it's funny we're talking about it as we go into a contract season, right? And we're obviously trying to get the part-timers
It's something that needs to be
money.
addressed. It does.
It's crazy that you say that, because I started at the same rate in 2002.
Right. 2004.
You know what I mean? It's like,
and we talked to.
Well, there was no raises.
Yeah, we talked to.
And in '98 when I started, it was $8.50 an hour.
Even Carla said when she got hired
dude.
in '87, it was $8.50.
Yeah, and
87.
I think it was $8, and then I got a raise right off the bat because we were in a contract negotiation.
Yeah.
I hired in August, and so the raise for anyone who was, I guess I got red circled, and then I just got the raise that everyone else got because they didn't sign it until September, October. So I got the raise plus the back pay, and right off the bat I was making pretty good money. Wow. Considering you get gas for 89 cents, and you could get 6 tacos for.
But they didn't increase that. They didn't increase that starting wage.
When gas was under $1.
I did.
That's crazy.
I remember that. I do remember that.
I do remember that.
It's like when I started driving, but yeah.
So you basically, like a lot of us, because I was in the same situation. You get stuck there because you know that this job is going to provide. You have your family.
There's security there.
Yeah.
What does the black hole do? It sucks you in.
Yeah, it sucks you in.
It was more than
It's
that.
not the worst black hole you could get into.
Back then, getting a job at UPS was kind of prestigious. They didn't just allow anyone, and most people quit.
True.
Referrals, and it was all referrals.
Yeah,
I remember.
referrals then.
And like my parents were like, "Oh wow, you got a job! It's such a good job. They were kind of like, like, hey, that's really awesome that you."
It was a premium job out there.
Yeah. So you could go to school and you made enough money to where we're talking about $135 a week back then, but that was plenty to pay my insurance. And
I was like
gas money
barely clearing 100,
and take my girlfriend out to the movies on the weekend, and it was plenty of money back then. That being said, being a part-timer, they want you to pretty much dedicate your life to UPS, which was something, and I had a couple other jobs before that. It looks very menial beginner jobs, which is what all you're supposed to get when you're 17 or 19 or whatever. But they took it so differently at UPS. It was kind of a culture shock just coming in and like having a 19-year-old screaming at you all day long.
Yeah, right.
And me just thinking, man,
I would
love to see you at the Orange County Swamp.
So, Josh, one of the things I think that I've seen, and I think we have all seen, 'cause we got some years in now. It took you 6 years, right? In the part-time. John, it took 10 years, right? For me, it was 5 years, and I don't know how many years it took you, George, but
it took me 8 years.
So 8 years, and what we see now, with this younger generation coming in that are going in 2 years.
Yeah, right.
They don't really.
Well, they're going to run into the same problem if things don't change, because the reason why we were so long was because in '97 we went on strike, and I was part of that.
Well, it was '97, and then in
took
02
years.
when I started, we had 9/11, right?
Well, and we went public in 2000, I believe. So that makes.
I think it was '99.
I think '99 went public. Yeah,
It was public
99?
in '99, but it's crazy to see the way UPS has changed since they went public, and I've actually I've worked for both, because both type of companies, sole proprietorship and public company. So I worked for UPS. While I was waiting 10 years, I worked 2 jobs for 10 years. So I was involved in some smaller companies, a medical supply company to be more specific, and just to see the culture and camaraderie, it's different.
It's much.
And then I watched UPS it went public in '99. And then it took a while, but the culture changed as we moved forward. Every year they would take more. Every year, when I first came in, you remember they used to back the 52-footer up or the 53-footer up with the turkeys right there to the front gate. Everyone got their turkeys.
Shook your
at
hand
Christmas.
and told you thank you.
Thank you.
I haven't got a thank you in 10 years.
Yeah, right.
So, no, it was different. A big portion of that when we went. First, when we went strike, it opened up the door for RPS, which is FedEx Ground now, to really blossom and take a foothold. And that did affect us, and we had a lot of upstarts like On Track and Golden State Overnight and DHL and all the other people try to throw their hat in the game, and that caused a lot of it put me back years from being able to go driving because of that backlash.
Remember how long it took, Josh, to go full time?
I do.
And it's funny because John and I will be in the building sometime, and we'll have members that will be like, I've been here 2 years. Right?
And it's not a knock on them.
I got all the seniority.
I'm just like, dude,
I had a wife and 2 kids.
I would have prayed if I could have went full time in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. Shit, I had to wait 10 years.
Yeah, I know that's
a long
hard.
time.
And right after we went public, what happened was when we went public, because I got involved pretty early on with like I said, Dennis was a real good friend of mine, and
he mentored you, and then so you get into package.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to get from once you went into package to becoming a steward?
They wanted me to become a steward in 6 months.
In package.
Yeah, but
Really?
But at the time, I didn't feel I was ready because I was still doing things that young package drivers do, like break all the rules.
Yeah.
And
you're a runner.
I was a runner.
I mean, I think we all kind of start that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Especially
also,
if you were into sports.
Yeah.
For me, that was like, I took pride in my fucking work, and I was like, I'll fucking run all this stuff off.
I
Watch me run up
can
180 by
definitely
2.
say that there's a lot of us that come in, and I remember the when I went driving, and I had the guy who was doing his route. He's still there in feeder right now, but he came up to me one day and he says, with the real serious face, right? And he says, "What the fuck are you doing?" Right? And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "It takes me 12 hours to do my route, and you're doing it in 8. Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just doing my job." I didn't get it then.
You
right?
don't.
I didn't get
It's
it.
hard to like get that concept with younger drivers because they're like, "What are you talking about?"
And
I
I will
work
say-
my 8, but it's like you don't understand that you're actually doing yourself and the other,
disservice.
a disservice.
Yeah.
But I will say to younger drivers, like when you have that older driver come up to you and say like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing?" Because a lot of the times you'll take it the wrong way, and I did at first. I was like, "So what?
Yeah, I've been
fucking
on-
kill your route. You fucking
Fuck
know
you,
what I mean?
old man.
Yeah. Like you kind of take it that way, right? But at the same time, what you don't understand is that what you're doing, they're looking at longevity. They're looking at having to do the job for 30 years. When you got, like me, when you've already had one shoulder reconstruction and you probably need another one, and your knees are hurting, your back's hurting, those are from those years of you running and jumping out of the truck, jumping back in the truck, fucking, closing the door with fucking your right
and they've
hand
built
and
a
all that
relationship
shit.
with each and every single one of their customers, and there's always a conversation with each. And like
Yeah.
if you're replacing somebody,
Well-
I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm just in and out quick. So that relationship's what built UPS. So that's how you sold the service based off of the relationships. that
Yes,
those
they did.
drivers had.
And I got to say, just to back up a little bit, there's very few brothers that I know that did it. And we offset, you guys can't see, we have one of our brothers here, Roger, he's watching, and he's the only one that I know that didn't run, and he kept his pace and continued to keep his pace the way it was. Never ran, just did his thing. Took a lot of shit, though.
Well,
he took a lot of shit.
Also, it's something that I didn't know until like later on, but it's something that you have to learn, right? So if you are a runner and then you kind of get to that spot where you're like, fuck, I'm fucking sore, my knees hurt.
Yep.
Then you have to change your pace,
Yep.
and then the company gets on you.
Yep.
If like now I tell drivers like, hey, as soon as you pass, your probation,
yeah.
I get it. If you got to run your dick off to pass your probation,
How do you run your dick off,
I'm not
Tom?
going to
Yeah.
say that, but
we understand
do what you
why.
got to do to get past your probation, because they'll fucking DQ you, and then you got to go through a fight, all that bullshit.
Yep.
But once you do that, like, set yourself a realistic pace that you can do for fucking 30 years.
Yep.
Hit the
Well,
brakes.
you're not thinking.
Beginning about how things have changed, but I think there's also, we're forgetting, and you guys remember, I don't know about you, Roger, so much, but bonus used to pay.
Yeah.
It was worth it. I was making $60, $70 a day. I was making 2 and 3 hours in bonus a
Yeah.
day, 5 days a week, crushing old man's routes. I don't care. You're gonna pay
Yeah,
me,
right.
You're gonna give me the money. You're gonna give me the money. Shut the
Our
fuck
brother
up.
Roger never crushed a route in his life. All right.
Like, I mean, even going back, after 25 years, me and Paul probably
Yeah.
were the only two, and you, I guess, there was only a handful of people who were stewards and made bonus every day. So, don't get me wrong, it went from 2 and 3 hours to 20 minutes by the time, because they
UPS
just
was done
whittle
with
it
it.
down to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then now, at this point now, like, bonus is gone. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
for the most
Yeah,
part.
for the
I mean,
most
there's,
part.
there's still the runners.
Yeah.
I know guys that, and this is, and you might know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say his name, but there's this guy, he ran, consistently runs. He's an older dude.
He runs in the building.
I know you're talking
He
about.
runs in the building,
Yeah.
right?
No names, but we all
from the
know
parking
who he
lot.
is.
Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
he
right?
runs in the
So
building.
this guy fucking is a runner. He used to make like 6 hours of production, right? No
Holy
joke.
fuck.
His route was worth 16 hours, and he'd do it in 10.
Yep.
Maybe 11 and get 5 hours, but he was constantly fucking running, right? And now he still runs and still chases the bonus, but at the same time, that bonus now went from 6 hours to 2 hours.
Right.
And you're doing 200 stops a day plus 55 pickups.
Holy
is what
shit.
this guy had. I'm
Yeah,
not
he-
even kidding.
5 pickups
Yeah.
on top
I'm
of
not
200
even
stops.
kidding.
But like Josh said, this is what I try to tell the younger guys coming in. There is no bonus. The bonus is overtime, right? You give them a fair day's work for fair day's pay.
Yeah,
Hey,
they're
if
taking
you-
away that incentive. So.
Yeah, if you got 200 stops on your truck, that's a 12-hour day. It's a 12.
And you might not think about it, but bonus and overtime are taxed the same. And what you get paid in bonus is closer to your regular rate.
Yes.
What you get paid in overtime is time and a half.
I actually figured out the bonus rate, and it changes weekly.
It does change.
It's the amount of money you make for the entire hours you work for the week, and it changes. So if you had 6 hours overtime one week and 10 hours another, it's going to be the average of all of it.
Wow.
So it's overtime pays better.
So you become a steward in package,
100%.
right?
Yeah. So I had an injury. I had a pretty massive knee surgery, and we while I was out, I went from Louis Ramos, who everyone knows him.
I remember
as
Louis.
the Godfather.
Yeah.
He's old school UPSer, hard, but he was also one of those guys that if you did a good job,
Yeah.
like, he'd go to bat for you.
Mijo, come
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Mijo, come here.
Mijo. And then as soon as he started calling you Mijo, and he had to do something extra.
Yeah.
I need a favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me, I need a favor.
I need a
So
favor.
I went from him, who I had a great relationship with, and kind of would have just done just about anything for him for the most part.
Yeah. He was the old school manager that really loved his employees.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the managers that they used to take care of, and that's a sad part that we've talked about on the show. Is that they don't take care of their management?
No, well,
anymore.
he was the evil
fuck.
manager for years, and then he had a really bad incident that happened that caused a fatality.
Oh shit!
Oh shit!
And he got demoted because he was in charge, and ever since then he kind of had taken a different outlook on how to treat people, and he kind of had learned his lesson, and he treated me great. Like there was obviously there was times where I did not want to go back out. He's like, I need you to do me a favor. I was like, oh, Louis, why'd you have to put it that way? Because now I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was he left while I was out on injury. I had knee surgery, and I came back, and I had a new manager. And I'll say her name because she's a bitch. Her name is.
We'll probably bleep that out, but
that's fine. She was so terrible to everybody, and myself and everyone else. That
she ran Saturdays when I did Saturdays.
I remember
that she was so terrible to everyone, and she got fired. Just want y'all to know that she got fired for doing weird stuff. Or I believe she got fired. I should say that. I instantly became a shop steward. Like they needed somebody, and I'm not one that puts up with much. And
so that was your spark. So we kind of try to find people's
that was a catalyst.
Exactly where people's catalysts are.
Yeah, and
for some it's you get in trouble or you got
I never.
fired.
You can look at my Pittsburgh. I got nothing in it from day one. So awesome. I'm not a guy who gets in trouble.
See, you guys, Josh and I had never been fired from the company.
I don't even have a warning letter. I don't think.
And
really?
We just came in.
I used to give two shits.
And going to your point
pieces
is
of shit.
Apparently.
Hey, so I got to say this. When Josh was a steward, later on when I came in, and I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but I became a steward, and I remember going to Josh and asking him for some advice, and he kind of pulled me to the side, and he was that aggressive steward, and he's like, hey, you're going to have your way, you're going to do things.
So Josh is where you got your style from?
Well, I took part of his style. I did. I did get.
Then you made your own.
Then I made my own style.
Like Bruce Lee.
Which every steward needs to do.
Because Sawas trained me.
I trained Paul, and Paul's a great steward now.
Yeah.
So
it's. I remember going to him, and he would tell me to, hey, this is what you need to do. I'll never forget the one time I went to him and I said, hey, this is going on. There was an issue, and he says, hey, look, you got to go in there and you gotta let them know that you run this shit. Those were exact words to me, and I was like,
this is my center. You just run it.
Yes, and he told me that, and I was like, really? It was kind of like the incident that we had when we first went into a meeting with you, and we came out, and John goes, I didn't know you could talk to management that way, right? It was the same thing that Josh told me. He was like, you go in there, you let them know that, hey, you know what? You might be the manager, but this is my center because you're going to come and go.
Yeah. I do believe that once you realize that you and the manager, like the management, are on the same playing field, like the same level, that really changes the dynamic. So now you can confront him like, hey, what are you doing here? What the fuck are you doing here? Don't do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one thing.
That's a big thing.
That the management will hide from you, kind of not. They want you to think that you're their employee and my thumb's on you.
Yep.
I can do whatever the fuck I want. And at the end of the day, when you go in there and you learn your rights and you're like, hey, fucking asshole. Like,
and what you said is the key. Is like, I mean, some people just are unwilling to read the contract and find out what the rules are. And that wasn't something that I was afraid to do. And I would arm myself with that. And I built a relationship with my drivers that oftentimes I was harder on the driver than the management was because I didn't want to be in that office if I didn't have to. Right. And every time I had to go in there and plead their case, it was taking away from me being able to plead someone's case who was actually in the right. Yeah. And you have what I built myself on was I was aggressive, but I was also fair, and I didn't take shit from anybody. Management, all the way up to the lady who signed my check. I would not. If you were wrong, I would tell you you're wrong.
I think one of the biggest things that I took from you, Josh, was, and I just had this conversation with a member yesterday, is as a steward and now being an agent, I want to be able to have the relationship with my membership and say, hey, you have a legitimate gripe, but you have no grievance. Okay? I'm not going to take the grievance procedure away from you. If you want to file a grievance, it's fine. But at some point, I would love to have that relationship with my members to say, hey, when I tell you that there's nothing there, whether it's a steward or an agent, and say, hey, look, you don't have anything here. And you have a gripe, and I get it. But this honestly, is what it is.
That's one thing that I kind of want to address, you know, and just because you brought it up. But, like, you know, as a steward, you can get stuff done in-house that you might not be able to get done at the next level with the business agent. And that's just the truth. You know, at the end of the day, sometimes you can fight for something and a manager will give you something, whether it's because they want to work with you or whether it's because they're unaware of the contract.
Which is a lot of times the case.
Yeah. So that I tell I tell all the stewards, like, dude, get it done in-house, because if it comes to my level, this is what's going to happen.
And that's why not putting on paper is sometimes really important. Not putting it on, not writing it down and having it get to the next level, because that sometimes can hurt your case. I mean, you can, if you're good at the talking part, and if you're good at, selling the situation.
And building that relationship.
And then you can get a lot accomplished with management, whether you like them or not.
Right.
I don't need them to like me. I need them to respect me. And, we've also had, I have a saying that I always say, like, it's about the relationship you have with these people, and fear is a relationship too. Like, what you don't want as a center manager is to have me hate you. If I'm your steward, because that will probably go really poorly for you. And I know a bear can't shit in the woods without someone telling me that it was happening. And they couldn't get away with anything. I'd get a phone call. I'd have every person in my center would blow up my phone, and I would call my center manager. And what do you think you're doing? What do you mean? Oh, well, why is so and so driving down the street in Browns in a package car?
Yep, and that's.
How'd you know? I go, there. You cannot do anything without me not knowing.
That was also something I took from Josh that I implemented as a steward. I took exactly that page. I remember you talking to me about this. I would tell the manager, look, if you don't call me and tell me what's going on, and my member calls me,
I'm going to be pissed.
I'm going to be pissed. But if the member calls me and you called me prior to that, and he calls me, I'm going to say, thank you for calling me. I'm aware of it, and I'm on it already.
And that's one thing that, believe it or not, in my current situation, and like I said, Savas trained me as a steward, and we're both business agents at this point. But that's one thing that I implement now with the division manager. It's like, hey, well, if you don't give me a heads up, then I'm gonna be fucking pissed. Right. If you can give me a heads up and say, hey, we're doing this, and it's a contract violation, I'm gonna tell you, okay, you're gonna have to pay on that violation, but I'm not gonna be so inclined to be upset. Right. But if you leave me blind and you fire one of my members, or something happens and you don't give me a heads up, I'm going to be pissed.
And I'm heavy handed. So, I would just file for 8. Anytime a supervisor touched anything, you go out and deliver one package. I go, that's 8 hours. And they're like, what do you mean? You only deliver one package. You get a guarantee. You put a truck on the road. That's a guaranteed 8 hours. So you owe me 8 hours. And I whittled that down to anytime supervisor did any work, they would add all the time it took for them to leave the building and get back to the building to whatever run or whatever route that was on. And I would call that driver. They would call me and ask me, and I'd call that, let's say Dave Acosta. Hey, Dave, they're going to be delivering a package on your route. And if you don't get an hour of overtime next week extra on your check, let me know. Or it would be like, just take it to the driver, and then I want you to add the hour too, because it's already late. So next day it's already late. So give it to the driver. He'll do it with his pickups, and you're still going to add him an hour. And that way, my driver, who I call him my driver at the time, the employee who was working in the center that I was, even if they had more seniority than me, they were like, Josh has it under control. I know he's got everything worked out. He's got them doing what he has found to be the best alternative, because they're going to do their business. They're going to do it whether you want them to or not. They're going to do it because they're going to say, oh, we got to get every customer every day.
Right, yeah, right.
But there are rules. So,
you can do it, but if you're telling me, it's going to cost you. It's already bargained in the contract. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And you're going to abide by it, and you're letting me know. And going to your point, sometimes you don't even have to put that on paper.
Right.
You don't have to file that grievance. You can get it done at home,
Yeah.
and it takes a while to build that relationship, right?
But that comes back from the fear. And I don't mean like they're not afraid of me, like I'm going to beat them up, nothing like that. They're afraid of all of the headache that I will cause,
Right.
or my group of stewards we will cause if you don't play ball.
And that comes from being consistent with management
Right.
and saying, hey, I'm not going to let you slide on this. Just, you know, fair is fair. And that's one thing to your point, right? Where you correct members, right? You're like, hey, dude, you fucking got to show up to work.
Yep.
Or you're taking all my ammo. I don't fucking have anything to defend you with. You know, how they're consistent. We need to be consistent as stewards, as BAs, and say, hey, it is what it is. It's a violation. You pay it. You know, if you show me respect, to your point, you don't have to worry about me being fucking upset and you know, flipping my lid. But at the same time, you're going to go ahead and be consistent. You're going to pay for that that violation, and it is what it is. It doesn't have to be personal. It is what it is.
So you're in package for how many years?
19.
So you was in package for 19 years, and I just want to say this to a lot of the members out there right now. Obviously, we're shooting this on a Sunday. We had feeder orientation today. All of you guys out there, 224s, young guys that are getting in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years,
Into feeder?
7 years,
25 years.
It took him how many years to get into?
25.
25 years. I got the phone call to go into feeder at 19 years.
I got it at 19 as well.
Yeah, so
And they told us right when I started in 02.
They said it was going to be about 20 years.
10 years to go full time.
Yeah.
They told me 25 years to go feeder.
to go
Is
feeder.
what they told me.
So you're involved. I know, I worked with you a lot. We were stewards under the old administration, including Eric as well, who runs the local now. Just little fun fact here. Josh actually ran with Eric the very first time when they ran against the administration, the old administration. So my point being is Josh was always very involved in the union. I took a lot at heart from Josh. He took me under his wing, and I didn't take everything from him because he's a little crazy at times. But I took a good portion of it. I love you, brother. But
it's real.
yeah, and I ran with what he showed me, and I took something from Eric as well, and all the other stewards, right? Dave Guevara at the time, we had our time there in Stadium Center. We did a lot of stuff back then. It was a different time then.
It was.
You guys were tucked back in the corner?
We were tucked back in the corner.
Bring up that individual. And this is something that...
So our brother Roger's here. You can't see him. He's off camera.
You can't see him. He's
right?
off camera. He's asking us, why did you become a shop steward?
So I became a shop steward because they were fucking with my brother Roger.
Okay.
And I got fucked with a lot too.
Yes.
And we've talked about this, right? And the catalyst, what it was. And our brother Roger, who you can't see, he always on time, always came to work, never complained.
Runner.
No, Roger never ran.
Oh,
no, Roger never ran. Roger never ran.
Foot on the ground at all times.
Yeah. But he was, So he was the guy that if you put him on a route, there was no complaining.
Right.
And when I hear some of our younger brothers coming up right now,
it's ridiculous
that they're like, I've been doing this 2 years.
It's all of society.
Yeah, it's like 2 years.
It's so crazy, dude.
Our brother here,
I got 3 months on that guy.
Yeah,
like, get out of here, dude. Just do the route.
Yeah, it's crazy. But that's why I became a steward. They were fucking with my brother, and I was like, this is bullshit. He was the catalyst, and it played back into my nature of the way we grew up. I can't stand by and watch somebody bully somebody else, right? I can't do it.
I wasn't into that for sure.
I couldn't do it. So yes, that's a big part of the reason why I became a steward was because of my brother Roger, and they used to fuck with him all the time because he wasn't a runner.
Well, I remember when you became a steward because we had become friends because I was the steward in college, and when I was in the steward in college, in my center, and we have 4 centers at the time, and I don't know if by then the entire building people were calling for me to be the steward because I was heavy-handed, and people managers did not like when I walked in the office because I did not put up with anyone's bullshit.
And I think members appreciate that.
Oh,
and
yeah, I was
yeah.
sought after. It became a burden because I became the steward for the entire building.
Like the manager would be like, "Oh, why'd you have to get him? Why
Yeah.
don't you go?
I got my own steward.
That was the problem. Was when we had.
Why don't you get the steward I like?"
The one I can bully around.
I had that one too. Well, in his center, they had done a switch of an area had moved into my center.
That's right.
And he had one steward who would not. It was a steward in my center, and he's like, "I only do shop stewarding for stadium," which was his. That guy wouldn't do anything. He did nothing for he knows who he is, but whatever. So they would send me over there to help, and then it was Harvey, wasn't it Harvey?
Harvey Cotton.
Harvey Cotton. Who I knew before he was a manager, and he was all right. And then I met him as a manager, and I was like, "Holy cow, this guy is a jerk."
Sometimes it changes.
Yeah.
And I remember I kind of sat in on something, and a lot of times if I don't know you, I'll just kind of sit back. I don't know exactly what you want from me. I don't know what kind of trouble you got, and I don't really know you. Yeah. And I'm not gonna, like I said, use my currency, which is my reputation, up on somebody I don't know. And then you kind of just. Like you were just kind of a cool character about it. Like, okay, you're gonna do this and watch this, and you're gonna do that. Okay, well, watch this. And I was just like, oh, I like your style. Like you don't get mad, you don't get you don't freak out. You keep your voice the same. I like it, like a freaking serial killer. And and so over the course of time, they kind of mess with you a bit, and I'm like, dude, you need to be a steward out here. Well, you ain't got nobody. And you're like, oh, man, I don't know. I'm pretty young, yada, yada, yada. And eventually.
Young Salas, that's interesting.
Well, young in the company,
Yeah.
Young in the company, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, shit. Our mothers went to the Team Mother program together.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
legit. And so we're like the same age, but he had started much later than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I started late.
Yeah, so he was newer to the company,
right?
Especially newer to driving. So after a while, Stadium Center is pretty heavily Hispanic.
It was.
And so, he was the voice of a lot of people. A lot of people, he was their voice. And, it's nice to have someone who looks like you and talks like you and sounds like you and comes from the same neighborhood as you, same background as you, be able to fight for you. And that way he had credentials to be able to speak off of life experience and things that carried a lot of weight, and it wasn't very long before you became the leader of Stadium Center.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and let's get back to this is the Josh show. But
hey, look, Salas has never done his get to know you segment, and I swear every time someone talks about his past, he steers away from it. He doesn't want to talk about it.
Me and
He's
him
like,
let's
get back to Josh.
Let's
get back to Josh because I don't want to talk about me.
I want to talk about me.
So, but I appreciate it, bro. I do remember all of that. I was young in the company. Even I remember, when you and Eric first ran, and even the second time, you guys had entertained me of jumping on board, and I was kind of like, no, I'm not ready for that. I was going through a lot at the time, personal stuff and personal life, and but I did stay active as a steward. We've been in that building for a long time, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that I appreciate you. You taught me a lot, and moving forward now, you are in the feeder department, and now you're a feeder steward. And I got to say, Josh and Paul Martinez and Dave Baffardi, Frankie, we got Mal in there, we have Jim in there. But you guys, because of you guys, I'm able to do my job. You guys know it's no secret. I never drove feeder. I didn't know anything about feeder. But you guys have helped me tremendously, and I got to thank you guys for that, because without you guys, man, I wouldn't be able to do my job.
So let's get back to it. You're a package steward. You drive package for 19 years. you get into feeder, you become a feeder steward immediately, or
actually, you have to have your own run in feeder to become a steward.
just like a cover driver, you can't be.
Yeah, similar, right? So instead of me becoming a steward, I got Paul to be a steward. Because he and I had stewarded before, and he had his own run. He's got a little bit of seniority on me, so not that I got him to do. He's a very good steward, very smart guy, and with the previous administration, he was respected by that business agent.
He was a steward as well, too.
Yeah. And he had been a steward.
All of us were.
Yeah, and so there was a huge divide between the new drivers and the old crusty drivers. And in the feeder department, most of our problems don't come from management. They come from personalities. Seniority is an ugly word in feeder, and it can be. So getting someone to represent the younger guy with some progressive thoughts on the way things should work, not just the old school, it's going to be this way because we say it's this way even though it's not written down, but this is how it was. You got to trust me. That was like their motto. It was just like, oh, this is how it was. I was there. You weren't. You don't know. So with Paul, I went to Grant at the time, and I said, hey, I think he'd be a great steward. I'd really like to have someone who kind of represents the younger people.
The younger guys coming in,
and has that our voice in hand because
it's so funny. And you say younger guys.
I know. I was just going to say that.
Me, like this, last year, 2022 would have been my 20th year. But even at 19, 20 years at UPS, I felt like I just barely broke through the ice, dude.
Yep.
Like, that's nothing.
Well, they had people in feeder department when I was there that were there before I was born, and I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
Yes, and when you talk about the younger generation, and when he went to Grant and said, hey, you know what, I think this guy should come in, and 19 years it took him, 20 years to get, and you're talking about young
Plus
guys.
the 6 years in
25.
package, in part-time.
Yeah, right.
It's like, wow, dude. Like,
Yeah, so that went well. I know that there's some weird stuff with Grant and everything, but I have things that I like about Grant. Grant's a smart guy, and he's got some good things about him, and he always took my words and weighed them out. If they were going to be good, then he gave me that respect, and he took that. He didn't give it. I think that Paul ran unopposed and made him a steward, and that way. And Paul and myself were friends. So we were always talking. Every night was our conversations, and so flash forward a few years, and things had gotten, the administrations had changed over. We had new business agent, but on top of the new business agent, we had new blood in at labor, and it was just a completely inept management.
we'll bleep this out, but you're talking about.
No, I know. No, it was.
Oh.
No, I know. Actually, I have a decent relationship with. She was a OMS. Oh, she was a full-time supervisor, but basically an OMS when I first started driving. And I know she could be hard to deal with, but I had never had that issue with her. On the other hand, from the jump, was just an absolutely terrible person to work with. And
we'll bleep out all the names.
Well, there was a panel hearing that happened. They threw out my case because of timeliness, because the previous administration didn't do it in time, which ended up getting one in Ontario, my same case. And the way it was handled was my biggest problem. The way I was talked to was my biggest problem. And from that point on, I said, I go, okay, they ended it. And I was on the phone call with two people who, I don't know if one of them still works here, but one of them was loaned out here and one of them still works as a business agent. And I said, make me a steward. I'm going to flow paper like she's never seen. I'm going to be the biggest motherfucker she's ever seen. And I'll make it my life's duty to make it.
It was almost like a new catalyst.
Oh, yeah. No, just the way, the disrespect.
Catalyst number 2.
The disrespect of which she showed me was so, like, monumental. It's like, oh, like, I kind of laid in the weeds. I was just trying to do my thing in feeder. But, like, one thing I'm good at, I'm good at a few things, not a lot. I'm good at a few things. One is being a steward. I'm good at it. And I will do you make me a steward, and I will change things. I promise you that things will be different, and I will make it my life goal to make sure that things are not like this anymore. And I'm like, fuck that bitch, do it. And they're like, you're on speakerphone. We're still on the Zoom call.
Hell yeah.
And I go, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't give a shit. Just make me a steward. So from that point, it took a few months.
We're still on Zoom.
Yeah.
I'll take you off speakerphone now. Jeez.
Awkward.
I would not for me. I would have said it to her face because it's just It's just the lack of respect with that person is just unbelievable. And from that point on, I spoke with Paul. I spoke with you because I think you were organizing at the time.
No, I was. I was here. Was I here in the local?
In some capacity.
Yeah, I was. I believe I was still a
No,
steward.
I think you were
in the
out on disability and you were coming in here all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, whatever it was. You were here, so we spoke a lot. And I just said, okay, here's my plan. The problem in feeder is we don't have unity. We don't have unity amongst our stewards. We have a bunch of people who 5 guys go to this guy and 7 guys go to that guy, and then this guy and that guy don't talk. And they don't have the same, and they don't go contractually. They just kind of go off what they think is the rules.
Right.
And, we had some old timers who used to really treat the younger guys. The younger guys, by some of them are freaking grandparents, but the newer people in the feeder, they would treat them poorly. And I said, I want to get rid of that. I go, the one thing that I know what works is if we can unify. And that's what worked for me in package when I was a steward. I had stewards that we all were on the same page. I had a rank and file behind me that they knew if they came to me or any one of us that we would handle it, and that we had confidence, and that what we had is knowledge of the contract, and we wouldn't misspeak. I wouldn't tell you that I knew something unless I knew something, and so that was where, I don't want to say I built a team, but I built teamwork amongst our group.
Camaraderie.
Yeah.
Not even so much camaraderie, just literally, it's not that, because we've developed camaraderie, but what I did is I believe at some point the reputation that I had previous got out, so the stewards that were involved at the time, they gave me respect. Like, oh, you're not just this new feeder driver, you're actually like the boogeyman for a while to manage.
You give a shit.
Well, that people used to, I walk in the building and the world would change for a few years when I was a package driver. I carried a little bit of weight around, and they realized that, and they're like, hey, I've only been a steward for 2 years in feeder, and I'll be honest, I mean, I won't say his name now, but he's an older than me guy and a lot more years in feeder, and he was very respectful. He's like, I heard that you were a really good steward, and I want to ask your question on this, and from that point on, whereas he kind of wasn't like necessarily respectful to me before then, from that point on, he was just like, I know that you have a good reputation and you were a steward for a very long time, because I was a steward for almost 10 years. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow. I kind of thought to myself, well, that's about the most respectful conversation I've had in a while. And then, so these are my plans. This is what I was hoping to do. It's like, I want to run this as a group. Everyone's vote counts as one, but we make decisions together. We are all on the same page with everything. Everything's contractual, that we run it as a team, and that we run it uniform. Like, we have the same, we've talked about it when we fill our grievances, on or about, or some of the terminology we use, that we all use it together so that they kind of look the same.
Yeah, it's all uniform now. And
right.
I think we've definitely...
And getting statements from drivers and
right.
stuff. I want to know you're gonna invest in this grievance as well as me. Like, I don't get paid for this. You're not gonna make this harder on me. So if you want me to file this grievance, I'm gonna need your statement. I'm gonna need all the information you can. You're gonna email it to me, because this is the time of our lives where we can just do that. That way, it goes to all of the stewards. It doesn't take up, a big old stack in your car of paperwork. I can send it to you. I can send it to you. I can send it to anybody. We can have all the information at our fingertips. We can run it all together. We can access it together, and then we can discuss it on our feed. That was another thing. I wanted to get a group feed of just the stewards. And so these things I wanted to I can't be around. I have a lot of things going on in my life. I teach jiu-jitsu. I teach wrestling. I train fighters, and I work like 100 hours a week. Plus,
and you live in Hawaii.
And I live in Hawaii. I'm gone a lot, so my life is. So I can't always be there, but I want to be able to be accessible and be on the same page as everyone. And I'm able to do that, and so are the other stewards, because we run it as a group.
And that's been the big change, I got to say, is that with that, we all are on one thread. Is there things that we disagree upon sometimes? Yes, we do.
But that's what helps us not make mistakes.
Right.
Keep you on your toes.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot from all of you guys there. And I got to say, and we forgot about Jeff Ship, too. We brought Jeff Ship on. He's a younger member that's in the feeder department now.
I love Jeff.
You know.
Yeah, he's my buddy.
Yeah, and I think slowly but surely we've turned the feeder department. Is there room for growth? Always,
There'll
right?
Never be a chime where there.
But I think even establishing what we did today, the feeder orientation, it was never done before. You know, we had tractors here. We're bringing the wives in.
That was something that having work rules meeting was we got as soon as the stewards started working together. We started getting we got to have another one, but we had one like within 6 months of
well, this guy was calling me every day and telling me, you need to do it, you need to do it. And I'm like, I don't even know how to turn on
and what I say, just open the doors and we'll work it out.
Yeah, and we got that going, and it's been over a year, and you know, I think we've got a good grasp on that now. Like I said, we're going to continue to grow in the feeder department as far as getting all on the same page, getting everybody involved. It's hard to get the feeder guys all together because you guys all work crazy schedules. But for the most part, I've tried to have a breakfast or lunch with the feeder guys once a month. I know we just had one last month. Okay. But to get them all together, to get on the same page, go over things, talk about things. This is the first time we've ever even talked about feeder on the show. So there's a lot that goes with feeder.
There is. It's a totally different set of rules, a totally different set of responsibilities. It's the industrial side of UPS. It's the part where we don't really see customers. I mean, just a little bit.
It's a 24/7 operation.
24/7, 365 days a year. I worked all the holidays this year. You know, and it's by far the most dangerous of all of them. I mean, there is no job at UPS that even comes close to the danger. And with that comes responsibility. Right. You know?
So, you know, we kind of learned who Josh is as an employee or as a union member, as a steward. Just kind of want to get into something a little lighter. So what does Josh do for fun? What do you do for fun? What are you into? Other than, I mean, obviously you do the martial arts.
This is our get to know you segment.
What are you into?
So I have been I'm a lifelong athlete, I guess you would say. I'm a 2-time All-American in wrestling.
Oh, wow.
Blue belt world champion jiu-jitsu.
Is that WWF?
Yeah, same. Exactly. I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu now, hoping to open my own studio in Hawaii when I retire in a few months. And I've been training that for 14 years and wrestling 36 years.
Wow.
Currently, I coach at Norco High School for wrestling and coach at a bunch of schools through the years. But I'm a father of 4. I'm a grandfather of 1. Married for just about 28 years. My wife for over 30.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
And I know your wife personally. She's a great woman.
She is. I am the lucky one in that one. So they live in Hawaii. I have one daughter who lives in Oregon for now, but she's actually going to be going. She's leaving for Hawaii tomorrow to look for a house. Hopefully she'll buy one. That would be amazing. I'll have all my kids. My parents live there. They retired there. My wife has Hawaiian family members, so we have a whole set of Hawaiian family there.
Awesome.
Nice.
We've been going there for about 15 years, but we bought a house about 2 years ago. And I've been commuting. It's been kind of hard.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It is not ideal, but I did it.
Making it happen.
Well, it was circumstances, obviously, with COVID and all that. And interest rates were great. So home prices were low. I was able to buy a house I could not afford. I could afford it, but I can't afford it retired. But now I bought it then, and I could afford it easily retired. And we were able to get a great interest rate. I got an acre, 20 blocks from the ocean.
Wow.
A place I love with people I love and a culture I love. Near my family. I have a 1-year-old granddaughter that I can't wait to spend as much time as I possibly can with her. And so for me, I guess combat sports has been something that I've always kind of fits my personality. But that's kind of like I trained fighters in the UFC a couple. I have a couple of people who fought Bellator.
That's cool.
I've cornered probably 50 fights. And
what is that like?
It's fun. It's fun. It's hard. I don't train like I used to train, like actually train, to where I like spar and. So
when you're talking about martial arts, because you do jiu-jitsu and you did wrestling, didn't do any striking styles?
I've trained some Muay Thai and I've trained some boxing. And when I was a kid, I took karate, but mostly in my I'm a grappler.
Grappler at heart. Well, it's definitely also safer to roll than it is to actually stand up and spar because you get, CTE from...
Yeah, you get hit a lot less than you think, really. Sparring is... don't get me wrong.
Well, it depends on who you spar with.
I spar with some pretty good guys, unfortunately. Yeah. And they're much better than me.
But they also know to not
there's
clonk you a bunch in the head.
Involved honestly, for me, and I've already referenced how aggressive I am as a person and my personality. If I didn't have it, I'd become like an asshole. My wife would be like, "Hey, you need to go to the gym."
It's a vent for you.
Well, it's also there's discipline there.
It is.
There's discipline there. Yeah.
Something I've done my entire life. It's something that the day I walked into a high school wrestling room, I was good at it, and same thing kind of happened with jiu-jitsu. So, like some people can sing and some people can dance. I can't do either, but
you can fight.
You can fight.
I can do that.
Well, what I want you to do from this point on is before you call me, go to the gym.
Hey, just get my
and go vent.
Just get my Just get my grievances paid.
So an ode. We'll kind of end with this. We've got to know a lot about you. As an ode to one of our previous guests, Mark Davison. Shout out to Mark.
I know Mark.
What kind of music are you into? Mark likes Flock of Seagulls and Madonna.
And, Beastie Boys. He loves Beastie Boys. But he loves Beastie Boys.
I'm gonna text him some terrible stuff now. No, actually, I'm kind of all over the place. I definitely don't like anything you just mentioned, but I like anything from metal to classic rock. I've actually even started liking some country music. If it's got the right words and lyrics.
How old though? I guess because country's like
I like really old or a couple new people.
Because that whole entire style has changed, hasn't it?
I like Johnny Cash.
Yeah, Johnny Cash, classic. Yeah, classic.
I like Hank Williams.
I like Hank Williams.
But I also like Morgan Wallen, and I like Zach Bryan a lot. Yeah,
nice.
That comes with being a grandpa. Once you become a grandpa, you like country music.
That's just what happens.
Yeah, that's just what happens.
I'm not a grandpa yet.
I have seen myself kind of mellow out. It used to be just like Pantera all the time.
I think the last times you've called me, you're listening to Pantera.
It's always Megadeth.
I like I've seen both.
It's nuclear.
So he gets pumped before he goes into the office.
Yeah. No, I don't even go in the office anymore. They don't want to see me. Nobody wants to see me. I like a little bit of everything. I think as long as they play instruments, I don't like techno. I mean, I guess there's some rap. I don't like the racist stuff in rap, like where they drop the N-word. I'm not really fond of that. I'm not really fond of when they talk about terrible things they're going to do to people and women and drugs. It's not my thing, Hey, whatever. I know people are into it, but that's just not my thing.
Let me ask you this, Josh. Do you and your wife still have the river house? You guys still?
It's for sale.
Is it?
All right. So we're getting close to time here. I just want to ask, is there anything that, coming into this contract season, you being a part of the previous strike, is there anything you want to get across to the members to just kind of, what to expect, whether you like or dislike the administration we have, I mean, that's not really important. The truth is the last time we went on strike was this style of administration was involved. So I think that it's a very legitimate concern. But at the same time, we have some things we legitimately need to fight about. Yeah.
With the company having such a lucrative couple years And
$13.7 billion last year.
And that's not
a lot of money, John. We talked about this last week.
In their stock prices, and the dividends that they've dished out, and the market that they've cornered because of FedEx is pretty much gone, the ground version at least, and they've kind of outlasted the other competitors. Amazon's a very legitimate threat, but they just signed a huge contract with Amazon. This is the time where we have the most leverage. The way things were when I started and the way things are now are just so far different. There's a respect for the employee that you don't see anymore. You see people who never worked in the company running the company, who've never had a physical hard day's work in their life, making decisions for people who work themselves to the grave.
Yeah.
And that there's a compensation that needs to come along with that. And if we don't fight for it now, then when? And, like this, if not me, who? At that, at a certain point. Yeah. So I say prepare for the worst, hope for the best, put a little money aside. If you've already made your vacations, hopefully you made them in July so you get paid out. Or first week of August. I would be very surprised if we didn't get right up to the date without a contract being negotiated. Yeah. I hope that they get it all worked out. I really do, but
that's the hopes. At the end of the day, we got to fight. Like you said, we got to fight for what we deserve.
Just the way like this past Christmas season, they abuse. I'm a sleeper driver, so I drive cross country. They made it miserable and dangerous and terrible every day. I worked 10 days straight at one point. That's to the point I had to drive back because I ran out of hours, and they don't care. They don't care at all. They give us subpar equipment. They overwork us. And I get paid properly. I'm not unhappy with the amount of money I get paid, but I'm going to make $65,000 when I'm retired. That's like a third of what I make. And not that I'm unhappy about that, but that's not comparable to not even close to what other industries make in retirement. So I think our retirement needs to be increased. I think our medical has decreased in the past few years, even though I know it's run by us, but there's so much money you can put into the kitty that, we get things denied all the time. I want to have our fringe benefits increased. I want to have those things solidified. I want to have that work-life balance solidified. Those are important. And you can't, I have my daughter's boyfriend works part-time at UPS, and my son worked at UPS for 5 years part-time. And there's no way you can expect them to survive on $15 an hour. It's just not possible.
And those are things that, that you're willing to fight for. And
yes.
That's one thing I try to express to the members a lot is if you're not willing to fight for it, they're not just going to give you anything. The company's been slowly but surely taking every, for the last couple contracts. So I just, we want to really get across to the members that you are the union. What are you doing? You need to be willing and ready to fight, fight this fight.
Invest in yourself.
And the younger people who are part-time, we have vast numbers of employees that are part-time that don't think they matter. But this is your job. I didn't expect
63% of UPS
to be here in 2023. I had all these plans. I was going to do something different. You don't know what life's going to throw at you. You might end up here for 20, 30, 40 years. Yeah. And if you don't set the groundwork now for what the future may hold for you, then you are really doing yourself a disservice, and you have to prepare for – what happens if, you stick around this job and then you didn't care and you got some garbage contract and then you're stuck with that for the next 6 years.
Yep.
And then you're, begging for scraps at the table the next time. It doesn't have to happen all the time, but if we don't sit down and really, make it obvious that we're serious, I don't know that the Oz slate per se as people, individuals, but I am not unhappy with their stance of being hardcore. I think it's time. It's been past due.
Yep.
Amen.
So, yep.
Shout out to that. Shout out to Sean O'Brien, Fred Zuckerman doing your thing out there. We appreciate you guys taking the stance. We'll see, how the fight goes. That being said, we're going to wrap it up for the week. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We've had a couple long shows, and we just really appreciate you guys. Subscribe, share. Thank you, Josh, for coming out, dude. We really appreciate you. Savas, fuck you. And and we'll go ahead and just wrap this up. George?
Oh, I got to say this. Hold on.
Email.
I got to say this.
Wait.
No, wait, I got to say this. So I got to say at the general membership meeting, that fuck Samas, somebody came up and said, hey, you're Samas. True story that happened.
True story.
That happened yesterday at the general
It
membership
needs to be
meeting.
a T-shirt now.
And I got to say this. He was a ABF driver. He said it popped up on his feed. He goes, I started listening to the show, and he goes, I heard somebody say, fuck Savas. It's like, who's Savas? And then, right? Comes up to me at the meeting.
Then meets you at the general membership
and
meeting.
then he meets me at the, and he's actually sitting behind me. And then right after the meeting, he goes, oh, so you're Savas. He goes, your show had me cracking up. Look, brothers and sisters, we do this show for you guys. We're trying to reach out to you guys, in a different platform, because I know a lot of you guys can't come to the meetings. But we're going to continue to do this. I'll let you wrap up, George.
Email ocst.000@gmail.com. Leave whatever you want in there. Pictures, fuck Saba stories, whatever.
Like, share, subscribe, share. Thank you.
Thank you.